here tonight.
Joyce will not be here.
Joyce is not gonna be here, she's got company in, and I guess the wife is taking Chris back to school, nursery school. So, I wish more of our people were here to hear the ministry and work these folks are doing.
We have the world.
That's right.
We do have the world.
Strong.
You're responsible for making them dial in now. Let's do our prayer time first, and then we will turn the session over to our guest tonight. In this, if you have it, continue to pray for Helen Bounds, Pat and Barbara Cummings, Kim Jennison, Geraldine Dozier. Geraldine wasn't feeling good Sunday. She was here, but she told me she was having the trembles, is what she called it. And I put my hand on her arm, and it was just small jerks. It was the tremors. Donnie, Kathy Georgi, Kathy Gordon, and then Wilma Gordon, Ron and Linda Hubbard, Hubert Jennings, Jackie McCullough, Francine McGee, Mary Mosley, Latifah Mullins, Bill Parsons, Mickey Shipe, Nancy Roberts Sparks, Nisha White. Nisha seems to be doing well. We'd probably take her off.
She asked for
This point.
continued prayer for non-physical needs.
Yeah, other needs she has. Amy Whitson and Jacoby Yarbrough. And then we had two additional requests. Well, I've got the name that Arnie asked about.
Shoot, I didn't bring that paper. Is this Frank somebody?
One of his friends that has the doctor's COVID. And he just asked me to pray for him. And then Jen Riddell asked that we remember her husband's family. Mark Proctor, his uncle, had passed away. And then we had mentioned last week Joe Campbell, who is Leonard Warwick's mother, and she has passed away. Our partner for prayer interest or concern this week is Signs and Wonders Apostolic Ministry. I told Jamal that I thought he stole my name. I'd love for us to be Fifth Avenue Signs and Wonders.
I do have on his friend's name, it's Frank Seymour.
Seymour. Okay, Frank Seymour, let's remember him. Our whole band, Patricia Griffin, Jackie McClure, Margaret Myers, and Nancy Sanders. Any others you add to this list? Well, let's have a word of prayer for these. Father, as we gather under the compelling leadership of the Holy Spirit, we ask that as you shape us together as the people of God, that you will hear our requests on behalf of these whose names we have mentioned. Physical problems, social problems, family problems, financial problems. Human life is beset, and we turn to you and look to you to speak to us and to help us through. We ask your blessing upon our time together tonight, upon our guests who have come to speak to us of a ministry that most of us did not know about, so inform us through them, that we might understand that your grace and your goodness reaches far and wide in our lives and the life of our community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Ellie? We make Ellie do all this.
Is she the introducer?
She's the one that suggested we do this.
Okay.
You ever suggest
That's right, you're in
that?
charge.
Well, we welcome Miss Cindy Hood from the Welcome House, and we look forward to hearing her speak to us this evening and give us information about the Welcome House. Thank you, Miss
Would
Cindy.
you repeat the name again?
Oh, Miss Cindy Hood?
Cindy
Yes.
Hood. I'm sure I read that.
It's all right, it's all right. Well, I was telling Ellen, walking in, that we didn't know this at the time we scheduled this, but, right now, you know, you're watching the news at all, you know what's going on in Afghanistan, and, so refugees are probably in the headlines right now more than they've been in a while. I will just say right now at the very beginning, we're part of a network of welcome houses. There's the parent one, I guess, is in Raleigh, which is Mark and Kim Wyatt. There's CBF field personnel, so you may recognize that name. So I've been in contact with them this week. So Raleigh and Welcome House Fayetteville, which is over near Fort Bragg, they're both gearing up to receive Afghans very quickly. I have not heard anything about Knoxville, so we'll just keep you posted on that. I'm going to just give you a little bit of information about what is Welcome House, and then Sunny is going to do an activity with us. And then we've got some things up here, some pictures of our ministry. There's some handouts. And if you want to, take a little keychain with the Welcome House logo on there and just use that as a prayer reminder. We'd love to share that with you. And if you need one, I have a minute. So, although we can't tell, right, with the mask on. So, what is Welcome House? Our main goal at Welcome House Knoxville is to share the love of Jesus through the ministries of hospitality and friendship. We provide a safe and loving space for individuals and families in transition to permanent housing. I like to tell people it's a place to exhale. So when refugees, and there's a long process, I have a handout, when refugees are sent to Knoxville, Bridge Refugee Services, which is our resettlement agency, you may have heard of them, they are tasked with finding housing and completely setting it up, furnished dishes, towels, plates, everything. So right now, in every city, I think almost, housing is in crisis, affordable housing. So Bridge is having, a little bit of difficulty finding housing. So in the past, what would happen is if a refugee family was coming and there was not a housing available, Bridge would then use the money that is given to the refugee family by the U.S. government. There's a one-time amount of money that's given to them to resettle. They would use that money to put them in a hotel. Well, as you've probably traveled and know, that's an expensive place to stay if you're staying even more than just a few nights. So, let's just say $100 a night. So if they stay 5 nights, there's $500 of their money that could go towards their setting up their home here has gone to a hotel. So what Welcome House does is we provide a room, a whole house, everything's furnished, everything's there, shampoo, toothbrush, we've done it all, for $10 a night. So they're still paying, and we pay rent. We rent a house off from Calvary Baptist over on Kingston Pike, and but it's also a lot cheaper than if they were staying in a hotel. So that's what we do. We provide a place for them to have a soft landing, and then when their place is ready, that Bridge has prepared for them, we don't find housing, but when Bridge finds their housing, then we send them off to their next space. Why do we do it? And I know that's probably pretty easy, but some groups don't understand why would you do that. So first of all, it's Matthew 25. What you did for the least of these, you did for me. That seems pretty obvious. Acts 17, 26, and 27 says that God determines the exact places where we should live, and that includes Knoxville, Tennessee. It is not an accident that any of us or any refugees are arriving where they're arriving. God has already planned that out. And then finally, Revelation 7:9 says that it's a great multitude in heaven will be from every nation, every tribe, people, and language are before the throne. So all people are God's image bearers. So we feel like that it's our responsibility as followers of Jesus to be a welcoming space. Welcome House is supported by volunteers. We offer hospitality, settlement assistance, and integration into the Knoxville community. If that's something you're interested in helping volunteer, then we will get you in touch with someone at Bridge who will find that area of interest for you. And it could be simple. It could be meeting at the airport and be standing there with balloons and a sign and flowers, and then get in your car and go back home. You know, if you can invest as much as you want to. You can, if you like to drive, you can drive people to doctor's offices, appointments. If you like to set up an apartment, you can set up an apartment. So there's all kinds of ways to be involved. So if that's something you're interested in, talk to me or Sunny, and we'll, or if you have a team or something that wants to get together, just let us know. We'll help get that into the right person. So I just want to I did want to say this to you at this point. We try for every family who comes through Welcome House, when they leave, we try to gift them with everything they would need to set up a house someplace. So that's, you know, if you just think, I don't know if you sent a child to college recently, or it's trash cans, sheets, towels, soap, can opener, you know. So I have a list of things, and if that's something that you're interested in doing, you can pick just a handful and give them to Sunny or I. If you want to collect them here at the church, and you tell us the date when the collection's done, we'll come pick them up. If you want to do a whole list, that's fine. If you just want to do a piece of a list, that's fine. So we're just as flexible as you want to be with this. But we feel like we want the people who stay at Welcome House to have a good start in their new place. I'm just going to give you a couple highlights of our ministry, and then let Sunny start talking. Welcome House we are a nonprofit. I don't know if you've ever had to fill out the paperwork for that, but it's quite a chore. So we finished our nonprofit status in May of 2019. Welcome House has a board, a director, and a bookkeeper. So there's no paid staff. We're just all volunteers, but that's our staff. We rent an underused mission house at a local Baptist church. And I told you that was Calvary since August of 2019. So if you know anybody that owns properties, if you all own a house, if you know about churches that own a house, get them in touch with us, because we would like to talk to them about the possibility of expanding to not a different location, but another location. At our open house on August 11th of 2019, we had 90 friends show up to our open house, which was so amazing. You know, when you have a party like that, you don't really know how many people is going to come, and everybody brought either toilet paper or paper towels. So we had paper towels and toilet paper stuck to the ceiling, but we're almost through it, so it's okay. It's consumable. Our first guest, which was a single mom and a preschooler, moved in the day before the open house, which I thought was very telling of just the need from the ministry. Since opening Welcome House, Sonia just did these stats last night. Since opening Welcome House, we've welcomed 40 guests, 23 have been children, and that's including 5 single mom families. So we've had lots of families come through our place. The guests have represented parts of Africa, Vietnam, Turkmenistan, Mexico, and Iraq. So we've had a little bit from different sources. Currently, we have a minister of hospitality, which is Sunny Akoho, and he'll come up here in just a few minutes. Sunny lives at the house, so he is there every night. He works a different job during the day for Montgomery Village, and he does all kinds of jobs. I'll let him tell you about that, but he is at the house at night, so if the family needs something, he's available. We provide a safe quarantine space for a single mom and her teenage son, February through June of 2020. And 2020 didn't look the way I thought it was going to, but I think everyone could say that. If I had to think about starting a nonprofit, the fall of 2019 would probably not be the ideal time, but so it was. But before she lived who lost everything in the house fire, and they stayed with us 5 months of 2020. So there again, that's not what we expected, but God gave us the opportunity to provide for them. So far we've had 6 families in 2021. So we had 2 in all of 2020, and now we're what? 8 months. I don't know. Lost track. 8 months in, we've had 6 families, and 5 of those have been newly arriving refugees. This has been their first place in the United States. In May of 2021, President Biden raised the refugee cap. I don't know if you're familiar. You know, this is things I didn't know about before this, to 62,500. It had been historically low, 15,000 the previous year. Now, plans for next year is 125,000. So that's double what it is this year. So we need followers of Christ to help us and join the welcome. Another thing I just wanted to mention for you, if you have any connections or any desire for advocacy, affordable housing is a real issue in Knoxville. So please write your council person, the mayor, just whatever you feel like you can do to help us find more affordable housing options. And then finally, we do have a website. I have some business cards up here also. But the best way to know what's going on with us is Facebook. So if you go on Facebook to Welcome House Knoxville, then I do updates. I try to do not too many, maybe a couple a week, just so you kind of know what's going on. So I'm going to let Sunny take over. I've got the list. If you're interested in that, I'll put this up here too. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm going to take my mask off. I have a deep accent, and it does not help my case when I wear a mask. So please forgive me. I know it's not safe, but please forgive me. When you hear the word a refugee, what comes to mind? What do you think? What is the definition of a refugee? What do you think? Who do you think a refugee is?
Someone that leaves the country in desperation.
Leave the country in desperation, okay?
I was gonna say who's leaving their home for fear, to seek safety.
Fear, seek safety. All right. Desperation, fear, seek safety. Those are, in fact, a perfect idea to capture who a refugee is. According to the United Nations, a refugee is a person who has to flee his or her homeland due to fear of persecution, war, or violence. Keyword, flee. They don't have a choice. We have an African adage, a Nigerian adage, that says, when 2 elephants fight, the grass suffers. The meaning of this proverb is that when 2 people in authority are fighting, or when 2 people are contending for authority, it is those that are being led, those that have no means, little or no means, that pay the price. Cindy had alluded to the Afghanistan situation, and we all can attest to that. We look at the TV, we watch the TV, and we are shocked to our bone and marrow of the reality of what the human existence has to go through. The reality of the people, of the pain, of the anguish. And so it makes you wonder, how did we get here? Statistically, there are about 82.4 million people that are displaced all over the world. And this was a statistic for 2020, not even 2021. With the recent incident right now, one can pause and wonder, what will it be? 22.4 million of those people are displaced entirely away from their country. 22.4 million are refugees, literally running from one country to the other. Half of that 22.4 million are children under the age of 18. So imagine yourself, your 18-year-old self, in fact, your 17-year-old self, Can you imagine having to run with your parents, with your brothers, your siblings, your loved one? Even imagine having to run on your own because your parents' family have been killed. Just imagine, picture that for a moment. Why you do that? I gave us a piece of paper. I want us to do something. If you need a pen, I have a pen. Okay. I want you to write down 4 activities you enjoy. I enjoy hiking, reading a book, chatting with friends, going to the beach. 4 activities you enjoy. I enjoy when my grandkids come and hang out with me. 4 activities that you enjoy doing. Four activities you enjoy. The next thing I want you to write is 4 things for which you are thankful for. 4 things you're thankful. I'm thankful for my wife, my husband, my dog, my grandchildren, my car, the vacation I took a couple of weeks ago. I'm thankful that I'm able to take that vacation. I'm thankful that I'm able to join my Sunday school group or Bible study group and study together. 4, then the first thing is 4 activities you enjoy. The second thing is 4 things you're thankful for. The third thing is 4 roles you currently play. I'm a songwriter, I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a student, I'm a grandparent, I'm a manager. 4 activities you enjoy, 4 things you're thankful for, 4 roles you currently play. And finally, 4 people who are important to you. 4 people who are important to you. 4 activities you enjoy, 4 roles you currently play, and 4 people who are important to you. Four activities you enjoy, 4 things you're thankful for, 4 roles you currently play, and 4 people who are important to you. All right, let's start. Did we notice?
Forget to mention her. That's not my paper.
All right. Did we notice anything? If your paper was snatched away, rudely taken away from you as you were writing, could I please see your hands up? Okay. All right. Let's begin with you. How did you feel?
Startled.
Startled. Okay. What in the world is going on now? How rude can that be? How low can anybody go other than that? What about you, sir? How did you feel?
Surprised.
Surprised? Okay. Was never expecting that.
No.
I was listing things, so which means you were supposed to be writing things that are of great importance to you. And then I walked up, snatched it, rudely snatched it, and tore it right in front of you. I cannot even imagine that feeling. I can't. Okay, if your paper was marked on, can I please see your hands up? Okay.
Marked on.
Yes.
Say that again.
Marked.
Marked on.
Marked on.
Cindy marked on your
Mine
paper.
is marked
Yeah.
on.
All right, let's start with you. How did you feel?
Surprised
So-
and curious as to why.
Surprised, curious as to why. Curiosity, okay?
A little bit of that, I guess.
A little bit of surprise, a little bit of curiosity as well. All right.
I was wondering
I need to
why
thumb
you
that
were
off.
surprised.
My apology.
So what was marked
Talk
off?
about being surprised.
Yeah.
What was some things that were marked off?
My role as a father.
Okay. Your role as a father.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
The grandchildren that I'm thankful for.
Are you for real? Seriously? Of all things that Cindy could have marked off, it is your grandchildren. The most important things for you and your role as a father. Can we get any lower than that? Can this become any more heartbreaking than that? the people that are of great importance to you, to her, it matters not. It has no value for her. It has no significance. Can we get any lower than that? What was marked up on yours?
Well, one of my roles was pastor.
Okay.
And she scribbled all over pastor. My children, my activity of reading.
No matter how holy a person is, no matter how righteous a person is, you don't joke with their family. They are more than willing to do anything to protect their family. Every human being, no matter how righteous they are, you do not joke with their family. Family is of great importance. There is deep value in that. But then again, Cindy could not see any other thing but to mark off that. The valued things in your life. What about you? Let me start with you. What did you write down?
I'm supposed to remember. I know I wrote down activities I enjoyed, was hiking and canoeing, kayaking actually. And I think the startling, I was writing husband and family as people that are important to me. I think part of what I felt was not just, I mean, I was startled, and then also, well, gosh, what did I do wrong?
Okay.
There was a little bit of threat.
Okay. Absolutely. That is a legitimate feeling. In fact, it is okay. And it's scary at the same time. But let's back up a little bit. For you, you had a choice. At least some were marked off. A few was left. For you, you had a choice. Some were marked off. A few was left. But for you, absolutely everything was taken away from you. And this happened within seconds. What about you, Sam? What did you write down?
I wrote down health,
Health,
home,
home,
and family.
Can we see a pattern here? Family, 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 and our inability to do anything about it. Right in front of us. Let's pretend that this is real for a moment. God forbid. But let's pretend that this is real for a moment. Right in front of us. And you're unable to do anything about it, to protect the ones you love. Can you even imagine the feeling of helplessness for a moment? That feeling of being unable to do anything about it. What about you watching all of this happen? And yes, you have yours.
What I wrote that I'm thankful for is my salvation, Jesus, family, house.
And you have everything. Nothing was marked off, nothing was done.
Correct.
The reality is this. A refugee, let's go back to it. Someone that is forced to flee because of his or her home, because of fear of persecution, war, or violence. I'm an international student. I'm originally from Nigeria. You can tell from my accent that I'm terrible at being from the south. Right now I'm from the north. So my accent gives that away. I'm originally from Nigeria. I came here as an international student to go to seminary. I finished seminary, came here, and just been going through that phase. I do not understand what it means to be a refugee, because I am not one. Though I still struggle with language and the reality of that, and the culture, and trying to integrate myself properly into this culture, and it's a work on a daily basis. Now imagine if I was a refugee. To become a refugee, you don't have to turn in an application, no. These are ordinary people living ordinary day-to-day life. Like we are having Bible study right now, and then war breaks out. And then one person thinks that they have the best ideas, and the best ideas is to cause a war. War breaks out. Those that are doctors, those that are lawyers, those that are ordinary day-to-day people have no choice but to run. A father running to the east and mother running to the west. And once in a while you hear this beautiful story on Facebook about a family reuniting for after so many years. But what about the pain? What about the anguish? What about the disappointment of losing literally the families, the people that are important to you? Fathers looking at children being killed right in front of them. This reminds me of this beautiful story that we'll find in Matthew chapter 2, from verse 13, and you read downwards. It tells you the story of Jesus Christ, baby Jesus, whose job at this time was nothing else but to eat and cry. But because of the political decision of Herod, because of the political decision of the leaders of the time, families where Jesus was born, families around there had to literally watch their sons killed right in front of them. The impunity of Herod. What about the soldiers who probably walked in the same market, ate at the same restaurant with these fathers and mothers? What about the women that carried their children for 9 months and then there is this instruction to kill every firstborn child? And so you've tried having a child for 5 years, for 7 years, for so many years, and then finally it happened. But because Jesus was born at that particular place, your child was killed, just so they can get to Jesus. So the God that we serve, the God that has called us as his people to partner with him, to become a part of what he's doing in our world, has experienced this deep fear of the parents having to carry him and run away. Of Mary, of Joseph, thinking about what would their safety look like. Although the Holy Spirit came ahead of time and gave them a heads up. But what about the families that had no heads up? It is imperative that we remember who we are. The struggles that people go through on a daily basis. I tell people that the United States is one of the blessed places in the world. When I was a kid, I wanted to come to the United States because I would see families that were known in the community come back from the United States and their life is transformed. You can visibly see the transformation because they were here before and now they are here. And so I wanted a piece of that. I wanted that reality. But I could not afford it. My dad was a pastor who barely made $100 a month. So that was not a reality for my family. I knew I had a sense of call to ministry. I had no clarity to what that would look like. And so when I finished college, I started asking myself, what next? And so I began to apply to seminaries in the United States. Finally got admitted at McAfee School of Theology, where I went to for a semester and then I transferred. While I was a student at Master, something significant happened that has changed my life till today. I was enrolled in a class, a spiritual formation class. And so part of the class requirement is that we will go on a spiritual formation retreat. We went up Stone Mountain on the retreat. And part of the retreat activity was we were going to hike Stone Mountain. So we were hiking. I had become friends with 2 white guys, and I'm going to use the word white guys to drive my point home. I had become friends with them in class. And so we were up Stone Mountain and taking pictures. And then I said to them, hey, my nigga, can I take a picture of you? Yeah, you can imagine. Absolutely. That was the response I got. They laughed the living daylight out of me. And then they turned to me and said, what did you say? I repeated myself again. I said, hey, my nigga, can I take a picture of you? They continued laughing for the second time. You want to know the bad part? They never told me what I had done wrong. A young man from Nigeria that just moved into the United States, barely 2 months in the United States. Do you know what I did wrong? In the area where I grew up in Nigeria, the word my nigger was a slang that meant my friend. What I did not realize was the same word, different culture, different meaning, different context. I did not realize the negative connotation that was attached to that word in this context. And so in my mind, naive mind, I was meaning, hey my friend, can I take a picture of you? And so in 2019, when I was serving with Mark and Kim Wyatt in North Carolina, and we had a family of 7 that came from Congo, the only person that spoke a little bit of English was the father. The kid and the wife and kids depended on him for interpretation. So that fateful afternoon, I had come back, was making lunch in the kitchen. When the father came in, went to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water and walked away. A couple of minutes later, the first child, the first son, who was around, I think, 13, 14 years old, or 12, 13, 14, walked in, went to the can of water I had on the floor, picked up one, and walked straight to the microwave, opened it, and put in. I don't speak Swahili, Italian, French. He does not speak my native language, Igbo, Pidgin, or English. But I realized that he was looking for cold water because that was what his dad got earlier. So I went to the fridge, grabbed the bottle. I don't know how I managed to do that, but we used sign language to stop him, gave him a bottle of cold water, he shook his head in agreement and walked away. My mind was taken back to Stone Mountain when I said, hey, my nigga, can I take a picture of you? When you move into a new country, it is hard enough. But control is a very difficult thing. When we wake up, we want to have control of what we eat, what we wear, where we go, when we come back. And then when it's taken away from you, it is absolutely surprising and challenging. When your ability to control things all around you is taken away, and this is what refugees go through. They don't have the choice to choose. Hey, nobody wakes up and dress and eat and say, I'm going to be a refugee today. That is not their reality. But then again, I am reminded of Leviticus 19 from verse 33 to 36 that says, if a foreigner is in your land, treat them right. Love them. What is God calling you to do becomes the question. What is God calling you to do? If we are truly called to be the light and the salt, how are we doing that? There is a need in our world. And that need needs you and I to meet it. The reality is, there is pain. There is pain. I came to the United States and I had money just for a semester. I have no clue how I graduated seminary. When you figure that one out, please let me know. I have no clue. But God's faithfulness, because people like you give, because people like you support the work, I continue to receive one scholarship or the other. And God opened up doors. We've been working closely with Bridge Refugee Services, and like Cindy mentioned earlier, there are so many needs. And this need looks different on a day-to-day basis. You don't wake up one morning and say, this is the way today is going to go. Trust me, it probably would never go that way. It could be as little as offering a ride. It could be as big as welcoming someone. When I came to the United States, what made an impact and what has continued to make an impact in my life? While I say money is good, I love to receive free money. Money is good. But the most important thing is to invite someone for a meal. That changed it for me. Because I believe at the table, stories are shared. At the table, I learn a thing or two. At the table, you learn a thing or two from me. And maybe, just maybe, God will use that to win another soul. Maybe your presence of showing up at the airport and saying you are welcome to the United States. Maybe you going to help set up an apartment for a refugee family is what is needed for God to bring that person to himself. Maybe, just maybe, perhaps, it is you offering a ride to a doctor's appointment, helping someone call AT&T and say, how do we take care of this deal? But there is a need. And it's our responsibility as the children of God, as co-laborers in the vineyard, to participate in meeting this need. It is our responsibility because we are called. Deuteronomy talks about this idea of that we were once foreigners in the land. And when I hear that, when I read that, I think Deuteronomy starts saying, when I read that, I'm reminded about the story of the United States. Everyone here, someone in your family paid the ultimate price to be here in the United States. Someone paid that price. They fought with their blood. They did every sacrifice. And so we get to enjoy the democracy, the beauty of this great nation that we enjoy today. But let me tell you, the beauty, the strength of America is not by its military might. The strength of America is by the kindness that it shows, the opportunities that it provides. That is why little me could say in Nigeria that there is hope. That this land is a land of milk and honey. And so when I stepped off the plane that day, I saw that reality. What is God calling you to do? And now I'm going to shut up.
Does anyone have any questions?
I think you may have already answered it, but did I hear you say you welcomed 2 families last year and you've already welcomed 6 this year?
I think it's 6 or 7. I can't remember. I had to go back and count. Sonny and I have been running in circles, getting families from the airport, getting them to Welcome House. They stay for a few days. We move them. We flip, get the house cleaned, and do it again. So yes, we've had. I think it's been 7 families since 2021. The family that is there now, they just arrived on Saturday. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's a mother and father and 3 there's like 20 something, 19 and 17 children. So they're older children. So I don't know how long they'll be with us. The kids speak English, the parents do not. They're from Africa. The family prior to that was mom with 3 littles. So she had a 10-year-old girl, 7-year-old boy, 3-year-old boy, and she was pregnant, big. So she's actually over here. I saw Washington Avenue when I turned off. She's living off Washington Avenue. So she, that's a hard road ahead. So yeah, it's been much quicker in 2021. And like I said, that refugee cap is going to be doubled next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a much faster pace.
Does Bridge follow up with them once they're settled anywhere? Do they have some connections, or are they just kind of?
Yes, I don't know. I know they have the ability to ask for Bridge's assistance for 5 years. Now, whether they choose to do that, I don't know, but they do have a case manager who walks them through the process, and there's an interpreter that comes to everything. So, yes, there is that opportunity.
According to the law, it takes about 5 years to get your citizenship. 1 year after being in the country, you get your green card, and then you have to hold it for about 4 years. You get your citizenship within 5 years. Then Bridge is allowed to let them go. And that is why what we also do at Welcome House comes into play. That is why when churches like yours invite us, we ask for partnership, because the goal is beyond asking you to support us financially or bring in household items. We want you to become the Christ presence in the life of those individuals. And maybe a dinner could turn into bringing the person to church and maybe helping them build a family here.
When you said it's a year before they can get their green card, they can't work without a green
No,
card.
They can.
Oh,
they
they
can.
can.
Refugee
Okay.
status is different.
Okay,
Yeah, refugee status, from the moment they hit the US soil, they are authorized to work.
okay,
Not only are they authorized, but they're required to take the first job.
okay.
So they could have been a physician or an attorney or an engineer in
And
their
then I guess
country,
there's a waitress.
and they're washing dishes and stocking at Walmart.
Okay.
So that's there's another group called Knoxville International Network. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're another partner of ours. And they have some programs in place that help match up
Skills.
like someone who's maybe an engineer, they match them with an engineer in the United States and give them that mentor to help them navigate. One of my friends, she was a nurse in her country, and she works in a daycare center because going back to nursing schools, like it's not apples to apples.
Gotcha.
So she would have to go back and get more education. So, yeah, sometimes it's very difficult, but yes, they are eligible to work immediately. As soon as they get the Social Security
Process.
card and yeah. Now, right now they're having to stay in quarantine for 10 days. So that's kind of slowing that process down a little bit, because they can't really run off to they could go to the health department, I guess, but they can't go to the Social Security office in different places right now.
And that's because the government gives them about $975 to each individual. So if you're just a single guy or a single lady, that's the only amount you get, is a one-time money. Refugee agencies try to source for more funds to help at least pay their bills, pay their accommodation for a while. You and I know that $975 cannot get a decent apartment. And even if it gets you one apartment, what about the bed and the other stuff that you need? And so refugee agencies try due to partnerships to do this. And that's why we also come in to help relieve that load. Instead of getting them a hotel from that $975, we want to provide a welcome house. And that's why we are also praying, because God has laid this in our hearts to think about a second location, and maybe a third, and maybe a fourth. And if a church is wanting to do a ministry like that, is our goal to help them navigate that world.
How is it determined to which welcome house these refugees go? You mentioned that North Carolina is preparing for a
Well,
number of refugees.
I have a chart.
Oh.
And the best I've heard it described, is this upside down? Yeah, upside down. The best I've heard it described is kind of like when professional teams draft and negotiate on who gets what player in the NFL draft and those sort of things. The refugee does not decide. The refugee doesn't even decide to come to the United States. They're chosen to go to whichever countries are hosting refugees. Once they know they're coming to the U.S., then this group gets together and they figure out what area would best be the match for that individual or family. So if there's U.S. ties, like the family that's at Welcome House right now have U.S. ties in Maryville. So once there's an anchor family, then more families would come so that they can try to keep them together. But it's not something like that they have any choice over. Yeah, yeah.
Do you know at the international level if a refugee is known to have family in the United States or in England, do those families get preference automatically to
Yes.
go to the, okay.
I mean, I don't know if it's always, but it's
that's the-
preference,
Okay,
yeah. And then also, this is another good point, lots of refugees who come to whatever city, they're free, they're in the US, they can move. So they can move, like say they've got a relative or some people that they knew from their country in another city, they're allowed to move to that city. So similar to what happened early in the United States history, is doing the same thing. There's communities that gather together because, that it's comfortable. So, that's just another variable. Like they don't have to stay where they're first sent.
And they don't lose any of the benefits if they choose to move.
Right,
Okay, like they support, like,
right.
One of our partners here is the Rehoboth African Family Ministries. Believe it or not, Knoxville is the place, the government places African immigrants, not refugees so much, it's just immigrants, and there's about 18,000
I did not know that number, but I knew.
African immigrants settled here in Knoxville, Tennessee.
So,
Lily White, Knoxville, Tennessee.
right, exactly. Well, what I would love to do is get a connection for them so that if we have a family like the family before, Sonny and I could not speak to this mother, and unless there was an interpreter there. So it would be nice if we could call them and say, hey, there's a mom arriving at the airport. Can you bring her a meal that looks culturally appropriate for her?
Right.
And could you, come and talk to her? So I did get her in touch with, there's a group called AWAC, and it stands, I never can remember, it's like African Women, and they do baby showers. So I feel like she, I hope, connected with them, and they will help her through that, having that baby. By the way, she's a widow. So help her through that process of having a baby in the United States. I mean, she has 3 other children, but she hasn't done that here, and it's going to be very different.
The Rehoboth African Family Ministries, the co-pastor or pastor's wife, I don't know how she refers to herself, is actually an interpreter for Knox County Schools.
And what is her name?
Her name is.
Is it Paulette? That's who I connected her to.
Okay.
Kazinga?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, I connected Martine to Paulette.
Good.
So I'm hoping, because Sonny and I, we didn't know, I'll just tell you, this is funny, and maybe I shouldn't tell funny stories, but those little boys, 7 and 3, I think I came, of all the times I came to the house, I think nearly every one of them, they were naked when I got there. So they would kept running in, little boys, and the sister who's 10 would say something to him, and they would run in the other room giggling, and they'd come back out with little pants on, and she would look at me and roll her eyes, and I thought, I get it, I know, it's big sister stuff, So it was just really cute to see that happening, and I didn't understand what she was saying, but I knew what she was saying. Yeah, that's cute.
But I think the most important thing is if you see the hope that is in the eyes of these people. Most of the families that we've had, God has been there for 23 years at a refugee camp. And so imagine praying every day, is it today? Oh, is it today? Oh no, is it today? For 23 years.
I think he got 2 days notice is what he told me.
For 23 years. Can you imagine that reality? And then you have this hope. Because as someone, when I was back home, it is an answered prayer just to get the US visa. It is an answered prayer because the reality is your life changes. The opportunities are unimaginable. I know I'm not legally allowed to work right now, but once I navigate all of the immigration situation, there is an unimaginable opportunities around there. And so when refugees finally arrive here, there is hope, deep hope that is seen.
We took the one family to their home, they had 2 little boys, and we had set up their new apartment, and we gave him the key, and he opened the door, and he looked in, and it was completely set up, and he said, he spoke English, and he said, whose things are these? Is this mine? And we're like, yes, this is yours. This is my stuff? Yes, it's your stuff. So his wife went in, she couldn't speak English, and she opened every cabinet in the kitchen, and there was the plates and the bowls, and everything was beautifully arranged with shelf liner paper, And anyway, the little boys ran back to their room, and Dad went back to the master bedroom, and he came back out, and he said, I have a question for you. And I said, okay. He said, follow me. So he went back, and he opened the garage, the closet door, and he said, can I put things in this room? I said, yes, that's yours too. So I told Sonny, that is such a holy privilege that I get to walk in there with them and say, this is yours. This is all yours. You can put stuff in the closet. You can eat on on that plate, it's yours, you know. It's pretty unbelievable.
Can I ask y'all a question about your, I guess, feelings about refugee ministry? We hear of you're serving 2 families, 10 families, and hopefully many more. But you see on television, there are 3 million Syrians who've been refugees for 10 years because of that civil war.
Yeah. It's overwhelming, it is.
Germany has
Yeah.
millions. Our country takes a few thousand.
Right.
How do you deal with the contrast of what America, the hope of the world, does that much, and other countries do this much? And it seems like there's an endless supply of refugees. You keep tearing the papers up. How psychologically do you deal with the fact that you can only touch 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 when there are literally millions?
And this past couple days, watching the news and watching Afghanistan, it's been very hard for me. And I think I've been working with refugees for about 15 years, and I think I have to really, and maybe Sunny does differently, that I have to think about that scripture verse, Acts 17, that God has put this person in Knoxville, Tennessee, in the time of my life when I have the power to do something. I don't have the power. I don't have the resources. I do for that person. So I have to really focus my energy in on that person. And so that's why I think when I go to the airport and I see them walk in, I mean, it's like it's my long lost relative I haven't seen. Like, I just cry and I'm so happy for them, and they didn't know me, you know. And then when I go with them to that apartment and I see them have these things, that I need that joy every once in a while to replenish my tank, because my tank gets low from seeing the overwhelming need. And my husband, I think I told you earlier, my husband's a minister, and he talks about this because he's in hospital ministry, you know, that Jesus didn't heal them all. You know, Jesus didn't, he didn't, you know? He chose just the few, and I don't know how he did that. You know, he had the power to heal everybody, but he chose not to. So I have to just think, God has called me for this moment, for that person. And, you know, I look at those 3 little kids from last week and I think their life is different. Their whole trajectory is different right from this moment. And that gives me hope to keep doing that little bit that I can do. So, but it's very difficult.
Sonny, you're blessed.
Oh, I am. I tell you that my mom, she just...
Now, how do you deal with that survivor guilt?
The reality is this. I tell people, and I had a conversation last week, and I was sharing with someone that this country is blessed that even after the Civil War, there is that national idea. It is what is good for the United States first. There is that national, when you talk about the presidency, there is a national idea of the United States first. Not of this particular, the South or the North. I come from Nigeria in 1967 to 1970. We were engaged in the Civil War. We were colonized by the British. And up till today, the after effect of that Civil War is what we still live in. There is that mutual distrust of those in the North and those in the South. It is a reality that we have to wrestle with. Just like we think about the reality of millions of displaced people, refugees all over the world, and then we are taking just a handful. It is difficult, and we might not have the right answer. There might not be an answer that will conveniently satisfy us. But I think another way that we can deal with that emotion is as we continue to pray, we are also to participate. Write a letter to your congressperson. Make a phone call. The more we continue to speak up about these deep-rooted issues of the reality of the pains of others, the more, maybe, just maybe, God will use that to plant a seed that will grow. There is no right way of dealing with that emotion. It is a difficult emotion. But I think why we feel that it's okay to feel that, but we have to take action. Make that phone call. Write that letter. Maybe, just maybe, that will give us some sense of peace.
And just talk to your family members. You know, just to be honest, my dad does not understand what I'm doing, and we don't talk about it very much because, he doesn't understand. And I can't explain it to him. You can't explain a calling other than God told me to do it, I'm going to do it, and it gives me purpose to do it. So I'm not going to not do it. So anyway, it's very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I've got some pictures up here if you want to look, and if sometime you want to come see the house, we've kind of changed up. I can't have you in the house right now because they're in quarantine, and I don't know when the house, I can't schedule it 3 months out because I don't know, but, that's something that we can maybe do soon when the COVID restrictions lift, but anyway, we do have a Facebook page. I encourage you to look at that, and then we've got the website, if you want to look on the website too. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all.
Oh, and please take a little keychain too if you would like.
I want